Hey, hello, welcome. I'm Drew. Welcome to my series. I'm reading a book by Joseph Priestley called Socrates and Jesus Compared, written in 1804. Today, Section 1 of the Polytheism and Idolatry of Socrates. That Socrates was an idolater, or a worshipper of a multiplicity of gods, and such as were acknowledged by his countrymen, and that he conformed in all respects to the popular modes of worship cannot be denied. He sacrificed his Xenophon, both on the public altars of the city and often at his own house, and he also practiced divination in the most public manner. On his trial, he said, he had never sacrificed to, or acknowledged, or sworn by, or even made mention of any gods but Jupiter, Juno, and others that were received by his fellow citizens. Do not I believe, says he, that the sun and the moon are gods as well as others? Do we not suppose demons, one of these, he acknowledged to have given particular attention to him, to be either gods or the sons of gods? And in his last moments, after he had drunk the poison, recollecting a vow that he had made to sacrifice a cock to Asclepius, he desired that Crito, a pupil and particular friend of his, to discharge it for him, and begged that he would not neglect to do it. Though on one occasion he speaks of one God that constructed and preserves the world, he does not say that he was the only God. All heathens and idolaters, civilized or uncivilized, were addicted to divination, imagining that by this means they could pry into futurity and find out what their gods signified by certain signs, as the flight of birds, the form of the livers of animals they sacrificed, and many other things which are generally considered as accidents. Socrates was so far from seeing the folly of these observances that he was to an immoderate degree assiduous in his attention to them, being of opinion that the gods signified their will by divination to those whom they were disposed to favor. Whenever he was in doubt about anything of importance, he sent some of his friends to consult the oracle, and he advised his friends, if they had an occasion for the knowledge of anything they could not attain to themselves, to apply to the gods in the mode of divination, saying that they who would regulate either their own affairs or those of the state stood in need of these practices. Besides having recourse to the usual modes of divination, Socrates believed that, upon every occasion of importance, the will of the gods was signified to himself in particular, but in what manner he does not clearly say. He sometimes calls it a voice. At his trial he said that he had often been heard to say that a divine voice was frequently present with him. Notwithstanding all this evidence of the polytheistic sentiments and corresponding practice of Socrates, Rollin and others suppose him to have been a believer in the divine unity, and to have been sensible of the absurdity and folly of all the popular superstitions, and of the popular worship of his country. But I am far from seeing any sufficient evidence of this. If he had had the weakness, which however is never ascribed to him, to conceal this before judges, he might have avowed it before his death, bearing a dying and most honorable testimony to important truth, whereas, on both those occasions, his language and conduct were the very reverse of what, on the supposition of this superior knowledge, they ought to have been. Indeed, I much question whether any person educated as Socrates was, among polytheists and idolaters, could possibly, by the mere light of nature, have obtained to a firm belief in divine unity, though he might in some degree have been sensible of the folly and absurdity of the prevailing superstitions. Okay. All right, there you go. Section 1. of Socrates and Jesus Compared by Joseph Priestley, written in 1804, 1 year before his death. Okay, thank you for coming. Comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.